Hi, Zach. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Stanley. Sophia Soda with the Nerds of Color. I am so excited to speak with all of you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Of course. So, there's this obvious idea of what makes a man and masculinity, both in the film and in society overall. I'm curious, did any of you ever personally struggle with that at all, either in life or throughout your careers? And what is one piece of advice that you wish someone would have told you back at that point in time?
Like as a younger man.
Yeah, as a younger, yeah.
I think there's always a degree of like bullying um, when it comes to, you know, how manly prowess or how however vulnerable you can be over like certain aspects of life. I think also like I mean I remember being younger and being very competitive, like playing like sports or whatever when it came to that, and like being like pretty emotional when it came to certain certain like activities and friends like just not not being open to talk about I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of shoulder that responsibility, and that was one of the very, I don't know, at the core of this story. I know it's something that was very important to Sean Durkin, our director, but just examining that, and specifically in this story, it's a long time ago, but I think that a lot of men, and I think just people in general will appreciate that about this story. We definitely go into it, some of the things that are difficult to talk about, and are real, that are really there. I can't say what advice I would have. I can't really think of anything there.
But yeah, I think yeah, these men, that they were dealing with, it was a different time, certainly in different, place, Texas in the 70s and the 80s, and I think these men, because of their father's upbringing, like especially during this time, like they just didn't have the language. They had a really hard time communicating. Like one of the most heartbreaking moments in kind of like reading the script for me is that scene where Kerry is calling Kevin, and it was just so clear that they wanted to support one another. Kevin really wanted to save Kerry, but they weren't able to sort of connect in that moment. And as for my own, I don't know. Like I feel like I got very like I grew up in I went to like a performing arts high school, and like I didn't feel like pressures of like any like traditional, I guess, like masculinity in any sense. And as for like advice, I think I was always like worried about like permanence as a young man, and I think just to tell myself that like there is like nothing is permanent. I think
Yeah,
that'd be
that's
something
good.
I would have liked to have heard when I was younger.
I like that. I like that. There's no such thing as big moments. Too.
Yeah. And I can imagine these roles were very physically challenging, probably some of the most physically challenging. But I want to talk about the emotional. How were each of you challenged in that regard when it came to telling the story and bringing these roles to life?
Emotionally, um, let's see. I mean, what it really came down to, I think, was exploring that relationship, between the brothers and then also between all the brothers and their parents, specifically their father Fritz. He was just a very overbearing father figure for them, and there was no acceptable way to be except which was perfect, and to leave it all on the field and to give 100% effort in everything you do and excel was really their only option. That was something ingrained in them very young. So I don't know. There's an emotional undercurrent, I think, through the whole film, and what it's like to really have that be your primary goal and focus in life, and to be the only thing you know.
Yeah, I think they depended, like their identity was so wrapped up in wrestling, and then even previous to wrestling, I think for Kevin it was football, and for Kerry it was discus in the Olympics, and
At being the best.
at being
Yeah.
at being the best, and they all depended on their father to kind of like give them this direction, and I think also like sense of
Pride or accomplishment.
Yeah, like accomplishment, like they were just so dependent on him. If he didn't give that to them, then they didn't know where they could find it. They certainly couldn't find it from within themselves.
That was their only form of that was their only reward.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, was their father's approval.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, pretty much all. I think that at least, it's such a tragic story, but it's also. I think one about as you talked about earlier, like a story about men's allowance to be vulnerable. I think that's a big deal. They weren't really allowed to open up and be vulnerable. So I think there's a difference between that and like wanting to.
Sure.
And I think that from an emotional standpoint, they said pretty much. I mean, for me, it was difficult with Mike.
Well, Mike seemed to be allowed the most.
Yeah, I guess.
Probably
because of his older brothers. Yeah.
But also, I think that was an identity struggle.
Of
course.
Totally. And in the script, it's like his need to fill that role that kind of after David passed.
The pressure.
The pressure of it. Yeah.
To fill those shoes, man.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Congratulations on this film. Zac and Jeremy, I've been following your careers for a long time. You've been on my screen for my whole life. And Stanley, you have a new fan, and you all did so wonderful. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
The activists, directors, comments and the lectures, fanboys, professional artists and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me. The hard knock life, comics, movies, and TV. Yeah, pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this.